What's going on? Welcome back, PC Tech Gamer here, and this will be a fun little one. I don't know if we can call it quite a game yet, but I'm going to call it a game. We're going to introduce a lot of things in this one. We're going to have platforms, we're going to have a floor with physics, and we're going to talk about the character 2D body. We're going to talk about the static bodies, and we're going to get this thing to use signals and create this little teleport here, okay? So I'm looking forward to this one. I think we're going to learn a lot, and this one should be fun. So let's go. Okay, so like always, let's start from scratch and build this thing out together. That way we get the best experience here and we learn the most. And so what we want to start with is a new scene. So let's go to a new 2D scene. We'll click on that. While it's highlighted, we'll hit enter and we're going to name this the world. And we will click Command S to save that, and we'll just save it right there. I just clicked enter to save it over here into the root folder. We're still not going to worry about creating folders and getting particular about our file structure yet. These games are way too small. They're not really even games, but you know, we're going to call them games. So we've got our world. Let's go ahead and outline this whole thing. We know we need a world. Let's create another scene. And we know we're going to use a player. This time the player will be a CharacterBody2D. So you can click on the plus button or you can click on other node. I'm going to do other node. And I'm going to type in character in the search bar and find the character 2D and double click that. Now we have a character 2D body. And basically a character 2D body interacts with the world and gives you physics with the world. So it will also give you movement. So it really helps out and can speed up the development. And if you look over here on the right, there's a ton of stuff. It allows you to detect floors, platforms, all types of collision. And it will give us jump and left to right movements and things like that. So we'll see that as we go along. Let's go ahead and save this as, let's see, rename it first, and we'll call this player. Okay. Let's just build out our scenes and then Command S to save this as a scene and then hit enter. We have got a player scene now and a world scene. Let's add the floor scene. So the floor scene is going to be another node and we're going to use a StaticBody2D for this one. So search for it and double click StaticBody2D and rename that to floor. And then go ahead and Command S to save that one and enter to save it. And one more. Let's do a platform. So let's do another node and let's make that a StaticBody2D. Double click it and rename it. We're going to call this platform. And Command S to save, enter to save it. And one more. We want another node and these will be area 2Ds. These are going to be the teleports, and we don't need any kind of collision. We don't need our character body to interact with it and rest on it or stop, right? It doesn't have to provide a physics where we run into something and we can't go through it. We just want to detect an overlap and then do something with that overlap. So when we overlap our character body with this area 2D, we're going to move our character body from one side of the screen to the other, so it basically simulates teleporting. Okay, so let's do area body or area 2D. Double click that and rename it to teleport. And Command S to save, enter to save it, and I think that's what we need. I guess we'll find out as we keep building this out here. We're going to use signals as well, so this is all good practice for everything we've learned prior to this. If some of this ain't making sense, I know I'm starting to move faster now, but we've learned a lot of this stuff. We're going to keep doing this over and over and over, so if some of this is not familiar, go back to my previous videos. I've touched on all of these so far in my previous videos, and you can break them down and watch them as I talk about them a little slower, okay? But I want to start speeding up a little bit as we go through this now, so that way we can get some games built and get some fun stuff going on. I think we're pretty good with the bare bone basics, and we'll just keep learning the basics as we go. Like I said, this time we're introducing the character body 2D, and we're also introducing the static body 2D, and we're going back and we're using a lot of the same stuff from all the tutorials before, like the area 2D and the signals. Okay, so let's get started. But first, I kind of skipped over an explanation of what the floor and platforms are as a static body 2D. And so what we want to use the static body 2D for are basically you're going to detect physics and collision. You want to be able to rest on something. You want the character to interact with it, and if there's a wall, you want to be able to run into it, glide, and stop. If it's a floor, you want to be able to jump and land on the floor. So this is perfect for the static body 2D. These things aren't going to move. Walls don't move. Floors don't move. Platforms won't move. Obviously, it can move, but it will be a basic movement where it's just going up or down or left and right, something like that. You're not going to use the player controllers to control a platform. And if you do, then you probably wouldn't use a static body 2D. That'd be a different kind of game, and you would use a character body or something like that. So for basic floors that are static, they don't move. Yeah, static body 2D is perfect for this. Okay, so that's why we're using static body 2D for the floors and for the platform. So let's start with the player, and let's get this thing going. The player needs a sprite, so with player highlighted, click the add node and search for sprite, and double click sprite 2D. If you remember, we also have to have a collision node, so the plus button and search for collision shape 2D, double click that. And now it's asking for a shape, so we're gonna stick with the rectangle shape. And we're going to zoom in and come back to sprite. And again, we're just going to use the icon SVG, drag it over and drop it because that is the most simplest thing for now. We don't need any fancy graphics. You can add your own graphics in your own time if you want. I just want to make it simple for everybody to follow along. Okay, so collision shape, let's adjust this one. I'm going to hold option and drag this out so it drags symmetrical. And we've got that. And let's go ahead and Command S to save. And let's add a script to our player. So click on player, and we're going to come here and attach a new script. Now, since this is the character body 2D, it's going to provide us a template for basic movement. And yes, we want this, leave it alone. This is perfect, click create. And look at all of this wonderful, glorious code. So this is supplied automatically, and this is really awesome by Godot. This helps us speed up things when we're learning and when we're just coming up with basic ideas, and then we can adjust all this as we go along. So in this video, we're not going to really adjust much in here, maybe the speed and the jump velocity, but pretty much we're going to leave this alone and concentrate on everything else, okay? But this is great because this really provides us now with a basic movement setup that we didn't have to spend a ton of time on, okay? And do we want to talk about what's in here? So let's just real quick. Obviously, the speed, we've gone over speed before. Jump velocity is going to be negative, right? Because if you remember, 0, 0's at the top left. So positive y would be down and positive x would be to the right. So if we're down here on y and we want to go up, we would have to go negative, okay? And that's why we've got negative 400. And the gravity, this is just setting gravity. And handle jump. Basically, handle the jump. If you press the action button, which is the space bar, and you're on the floor, you'll jump, okay? This is so that way you can't double jump in the air. If we took that out, we could do like double jumps into infinity. We don't want to do that. We get our direction like we've gotten our direction in the past with the input.getAxis, left and right. Actually, I don't think we've used axis. We've used input.getVector, so that one's a little different. And then they apply the direction and speed to get to the velocity, and then move and slide uses this velocity built into their function. So you're just calling, this is provided through the character body 2D. this is what's providing the movement, and it's all basically abstracted away and hidden from us. But it will, you have to have a velocity, so that way this function, when you call it, will work, okay? So let's not really worry about this too much. We'll go over this stuff in maybe another video. Let's just, let's get this game going and really concentrate on how to use the basic CharacterBody2D and all the other things. So let's click Command S to save this, and let's do the floor so we can have our player land on the floor. And what we want to do is come over here, click on floor, and we want to add a sprite 2D, and click on floor, and we want to add our collision again. Double click on collision, collision highlighted. We're going to come over here and give it a rectangle. Let's choose our sprite, same thing, icon, drag it over to texture, and let's resize our collision. Actually, let's resize everything. Let's drag this down. And nope, let's not drag it down. What do we want to do? What do we want to do? How do we want to do? We want to shape this inside of our, no, this is the floor. We're calling it the floor, so let's shape it right here. I'm gonna bring this down. I'm gonna stretch this out. I'm gonna grab the collision shape, drag it out, and bring it down. Just kind of line it up with the top here. Perfect. Okay, so that's our floor. And let's rename this floor image. We're gonna rename this collision, and Command S to save. Okay, so there's our floor. Let's see what happens. So let's click play, and then we're gonna have to select our main scene. So let's play from world, and click on world, and then click play. And we want to say yes, select current scene. And so we've got nothing because we haven't added these to our world, right? We've got the player scene, and we've got our floor scene, but we have not put them in or referenced them here in the world. Okay, so on world, let's click our little instantiate child scene, and we want to double click on player, and let's go back to the world, and same thing, instantiate our floor. Here's our floor, and let's just drag our player, click player, drag them, and let's zoom in and put them just not touching, but just barely above. So when he drops, we don't really see the action of him dropping. All right, and now let's click play. Okay, there we go. Now you should be able to use your arrow keys. We didn't set up function for WASD. We've done that in a previous lesson, I believe. So if you want to add that, you can. I'm just going to mess with the arrow keys and the space bar for jumping. And right now I can already see that my screen is too small, so I'm going to make it where I can zoom in and everything grows. Okay, so I'm going to go up to project settings. Under display window, I'm just going to say mode canvas items, aspect keep, and close it. And now when we run the game and we enlarge to full screen, we're getting a full screen game, okay? Beautiful. Okay, let's back out of this. Hit the X. So we're getting somewhere. So now let's make the platform. And we'll come up to platform, open this scene up, and on platform, same thing. I know it's repetitive, but that's what making games is. We're going to click the plus button. We're going to need a sprite. And I always forget about this recents over here. I'm going to start using this more because why type when you don't have to? So I'm going to double click sprite 2D, highlight platform again, add another node, double click my collision shape, give the collision shape an actual shape with a rectangle, and let's rename this sprite to platform image. Let's rename this to collision, And let's highlight our image and drag our icon over to texture. And let's resize this. We want this to be a platform, so let's, I don't know, let's say something like that size right there. And resize our collision shape. Something like that. If I'm going to import this as a child or instantiate this as a child to the scene, the floor made sense to put on the bottom, but I'm going to put this on 0. So I'm going to go to platform. Actually, I'm going to go to the sprite image, and I'm going to go to transform. I'm just going to say 0 and y 0, so that way the center of this is right there. I'm going to do the same thing with our collision. Come to transform. This is just something I like to do. I don't know if it makes any difference or not, but I like it this way. So that way the center of the position of my scene will be here in the center. Okay, and it seems to work out for me. And let's see, Command S to save it. Let's go back to the world. And on world, let's instantiate that child now. So double click on platform. And now we've got a platform we can bring in. And let's put it just above here. Something like that. Now, I don't think we're going to have enough jump. Command S to save. I don't think we're going to have enough jump to get up there. Spacebar to jump. So we're colliding with it. That's good. So let's jump higher. So let's go over to our script and our player script, and let's say, I don't know, that's 600. Let's try 600. That should allow us to jump higher. One thing I did notice as well on the platform, I kind of want to widen this out, right? So that should be to the top there, and this should be to the bottom there. That way, when we hit the bottom, we're actually hitting the bottom and we're not going into the image at all. And when we stand on it, we're not sinking down into the image, we're colliding with the edge of it. Okay, let's run this again. I'm gonna enlarge my screen. When we're underneath, see now we're hitting the bottom. We can jump. Oh, can we get up there? Nope, not quite. So let's do 700 on the script. And let's run it again. Okay, there we go. That's pretty good. It's probably a little too much, but that's all right. That's good enough. I like that. Okay, and then you can adjust it however you like it, obviously. But so here we go. We're interacting with CharacterBody2Ds and static bodies. Okay, StaticBody2D. Awesome. Now let's finish the teleport. Yeah, let's do the teleport. So let's make a teleport. Same thing as a platform. Click on teleport. Now remember, this is an area 2D, so it interacts differently. We'll be able to pass right on through this image instead of colliding with the edge of it. Okay, so teleport, we're gonna add a node, and we can add collision 2D, but we're gonna add the sprite first. I always like to go in this order. That way the 2D sprite is underneath the collision and we can see the collision. If you have the collision first and then the 2D sprite, the collision will be underneath, and it's kind of a pain to resize things and see the size of the collision area. Okay, so 2D sprite and then highlight, teleport again, and now we're going to add our collision. We're going to change the shape to rectangle. Let's make this the icon again, drag it over to our texture, zoom out a little bit, and let's resize this. I hold Option and resize, but let's make it like a teleport, right? Like a wall, a narrow wall. That's perfect. So let's rename this to teleport image and rename this to collision. Okay. Command S to save this. Come back to the world. Highlight world, and again we're going to instantiate a child. So let's do the teleport, double click. And we have one teleport there. That's a good size, I think. I'm going to put it on the inside of our line here so that we can see it. And I'm going to bring it just to the bottom here so that the two collision shapes don't overlap. And then I'm going to, while I'm on this, I'm going to do Command D, and that will duplicate it and give us a teleport 2. And I'm going to rename this by double clicking it. I'm going to rename this to teleport 1. So we have teleport 1 and teleport 2. So let's grab teleport 2 and come over and drag it. Click and drag to the other side. Remember, we see the purple line. You want to be within that line so that it's actually in the game window. And just let it hover above there, okay? So we're actually rocking pretty good here. This is moving along pretty quick. And let's do Command S to save. Let's run our scene. And obviously these teleports won't do anything yet. We should be able to go right through them. And if we do go too far through them, we'll fall off and never return because that's the abyss over there. And we don't want to do that. So now let's work on the teleport, and this is where signals will come in handy again. And remember, we're going to have to use a custom signal, as we talked about in the last lesson. Since these are all separate scenes, they can't talk to one another without a custom signal, okay? But again, super easy. Let's think about how this works. We want to teleport using the teleport. So what's going to interact with what? The character is going to enter the teleport, and then we are going to move the player. So let's put our script in teleport. This is where we want to start. So in the teleport scene with teleport highlighted, let's add a script, and we'll do let's just do an empty script. And let's say over here on node, I guess let's highlight that again and then click on node. And we want to say body entered. Okay, and we want to double click that. That's going to let us add to the script this function on body entered. And we're doing body and not area because our character is a CharacterBody2D. If our character was an area 2D, like last time, we would want to say area entered. But since this time we're using a CharacterBody2D for the player that's going to enter the teleport, we want to say body entered. All right? And then whatever happens in here will have to connect up to the world scene so that way they can talk to each other. So here, let's make a custom signal. Right? So signal, I'm going to call mine teleport. And so when we interact with this, okay, again, this is the character, the player will enter this body, or the character body will enter this area 2D. This is what will trigger our custom teleport signal. All right. So I'm just going to say teleport.emit. Okay. So when our character enters this body, we're going to send off this signal, and that will be our custom signal, which we can do something with. So Command S, and let's go to the world. And inside of the world, let's click on world up here, and let's add a script to the world. Let's go ahead and use the default node, so we get a little bit of code in here provided by Godot. And let's get our teleport 1. Okay, let's highlight that. And now you can see we've got that custom signal. So let's double click on it. And with world highlighted here, just connect those. Okay, so this now is talking to this, right? So when our player triggers this teleport, it's triggering this. That's all it is. Very simple. We can start with print. I always like to test things before I get too far down the road and I know what's going on. Teleport to, let's just do teleported. Teleported. Okay. And let's see if that did anything. So let's click play. Which one's 1? Oh, okay, so there's 1. So teleported, so it's working. This one won't do anything because it's not connected yet. So let's change this to teleport 1 so we know we just ran into teleport 1. And let's do the same thing now for teleport 2. So click on teleport 2, double click teleport, click connect. This is our second teleport, so let's just test this out and see if we can get teleport 2 to print. And run the scene. And we come back to teleport 1 and we get our message. Here's our message. It's printed in the console. And we come over here. We run into that and we get teleport 2. So it is distinguishing as we run into these. It knows which one is which. Okay, perfect. Now let's teleport the player. So the first one will be easy. We won't need any extra logic other than we're going to say, let's grab the player, drag him in, and let's say player.position is equal to teleport 2 dot position. And run the scene. Let's see what happens. So teleport 1, and boom, look at that. All right. So nothing happens this way because we haven't connected that logic. But when we come on this one, we can already teleport. That's quick, easy. Now, let's see what happens when we do the same thing in reverse. Since we've got this teleport hooked up, we're going to see something funny here. Let's grab the player again. And let's say player.position is equal to teleport 1. Okay, dot position. And remember the teleport position, when we come here to teleport, this is why I had it on 0. Come over here, teleport 2D. So this is the position, right? 0, 0 is the dot position. So that's why our character is like falling from the middle. You could, if you wanted it different, if you wanted the character to come from the bottom, you could move this all up so that way this is here on 0, 0 from the bottom, and then instead of the player falling through the middle, the player would just walk on out the bottom. Okay, so if you'd rather see that, then you can do that as well. I kind of like it being 0, 0 so that the player's falling like he's actually teleported and he's falling out, jumping out, whatever. Okay. Got sidetracked. Where was I? I'm in the script. Okay, so yeah, so let's run this because this is gonna show. This is gonna be funny. Watch. So if we go to the left, we're constantly teleporting back and forth, right? Because if we teleport to 2 right away in our code, it's like an endless loop. Teleport 1 goes to 2, 2 goes to 1, 1 goes to 2, and we're just going like this, okay? So we have to have some kind of logic in here to stop us from teleporting as soon as we teleport. Otherwise, we just get stuck in this loop and forever, and that's it, okay? So let's introduce a Boolean, and a Boolean is just true or false. Let's give this a var is teleporting, and we could say equal to false to start. And if we wanted to make sure that this stays a Boolean, we could come in here and do a colon and say bool. Okay, I like to do it this way. This is making sure that this variable is always a Boolean, okay? You can't put strings in here. You can't put integers in here. This makes it so we always have to use true or false. So I'm gonna stick with that. But if you want, you can just do it that way as well. So when we teleport, we don't need these anymore. Let's get rid of the print statements. And so now that we have is teleporting false, because we're not teleporting right away, we want to add some logic down here. We're going to say if is teleporting equal to, and you want to use the 2 equal signs for logic here. This is an assignment operator, and this is an equal to, okay? So if is teleporting, if that's equal to false, because we're not teleporting, So let's put a colon here. Let's indent this. And this is an if statement. So if is teleporting equals false, go ahead and teleport. And then let's say is teleporting, and let's make that equal to true. And we want to make sure that it's true, because when we hit the other side, if we continue to be false, it'll let us teleport again, and that's when we get the loop. But by changing this to true, and the other side will have this same logic, it won't let us teleport back, okay? So let's do down here, let's say if is teleporting equal to false, colon, tab this over, and then is teleporting equals true. Let's just test this out. We should only be able to teleport one way or the other. So run the scene. I'm gonna go this way, and we teleported. Now if we go back, there's no more teleport. And that's because this variable here gets set to false at first, so we are allowed to teleport because we're asking, is teleporting equal to false? Yes, it is. Go ahead and teleport. But set it to true. So now the next time we try and teleport, we don't get that kickback because this fails. This says, is teleporting equal to false? Well, no, it's not. It's equal to true, so we can't teleport anymore. Okay? So that gets rid of the infinite loop. Well, but now we want to teleport again, right? We don't want to just teleport once and done. So to do that, we're going to add a timer, and that way we can set this back to false after a certain amount of time. So come over to World and click the Add Node and look for Timer. And double-click Timer. And let's, with timer highlighted, we're going to come over here to Node, and you want to double-click on Timeout. This is going to use a signal as well, like the other ones, and connect it to the world script. So on the bottom, we'll have on timer timeout. And what is this going to do? Well, when the timer is up, depending on if it's 1 second, 2 seconds, or 3 seconds, doesn't matter, whatever we figure out that we want for this timer to stop, at the end of it, when it times out and stops, we're going to say is teleporting, and we're going to set it equal to false again. That way, we can run our if statement. When we touch that area 2D, it'll ask this question again, and it'll say, is it false? And this time it will be false, and we'll be able to teleport again. Okay? I hope this is making sense. So to get this to run now, we need to add something inside of our if statement. So we're going to teleport. We're going to say is teleporting true, so we don't get the infinite loop. And then we're going to say, let's drag this over, timer, and dot start. That starts the timer. We want that for each one of these here. Okay, timer dot start. And one more time, are we teleporting? No. Let's teleport. Change it to true because now we're teleporting, and let's start a timer. So we won't be able to go back into we won't be able to come back into this until the timer is up and teleport again. All right, so I hope that makes sense. Let's look at the timer. If we click on timer over here and come over to the inspector, click on, okay, there we go. So click on timer inside the inspector. And we want to do one shot, and we want to turn that on because we don't need it to keep repeating or anything. We don't need auto start. We just want this to happen once. Do it in the code, and it's done, okay? And here's your wait time. I'm going to leave it at 1 second. I think that's plenty of time. You can say 10 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever you want. If you want to, if you want to hop into the teleport and not be able to teleport again for 10 seconds, you can do that as well. But I want to kind of go back and forth as fast as I can. And the 1 second stops that infinite loop of jumping back and forth, but it allows me to come back in 1 second and teleport again. So let's run this and see if this is working. And come in and we teleport, and then we can come back and teleport again. All right, that's it. And I think this one was pretty fun. This one is definitely a lot to learn. We went over a lot of the concepts from the other videos, and we learned a lot of new concepts as well. So I'm sure this video is getting probably over 30 minutes long now, and I'm going to wrap it up here. So my advice to you is watch this again, or before you watch it, try and build this out yourself. Try to recreate this on your own, and if you run into trouble, come back and watch this video, and that way you get this down, you memorize it, because these are the key building blocks to just about every game, and especially platformers. So that's it for now. Ciao.